My name is Richard Spellacy, and I am the Registrar and Chief Executive Officer of the College of Alberta Psychologists. We are so pleased that you have joined our annual meeting to learn what has been happening within CAP this past year and to challenge our growth by participating in the professional development event that is to follow, virtual care and digital mental health. With respect and in the spirit of truth and reconciliation, I would like to offer a land acknowledgement and to highlight that equity, diversity, and inclusion is one of CAP's priorities in the 2022-2025 strategic plan. It is with respect and in the spirit of reconciliation and truth that the College of Alberta Psychologists honor and acknowledge that here in Alberta, treaties 4, 6, 7, 8, and 10, as well as many unsigned treaties, encompass the traditional ancestral territories of many diverse Indigenous peoples, namely the Kainai, Piikani, Siksika, Cree, Dene, Saulteaux, Nakota Sioux, Stoney Nakoda, Tsuut'ina, Inuit, and Métis nations. We acknowledge and give thanks to the many First Nations and Métis Nation and Inuit peoples who have lived and cared on these lands for generations, and the many others whose histories, languages, and cultures continue to influence our vibrant community. We are dedicated to ensuring the spirit of all treaties is honored and respected. We make this acknowledgement as an act of reconciliation and gratitude to those on whose territory we reside or we visit on. Today's annual meeting and presentations are facilitated by Nina Blake of Matchbox Virtual Media. During the course of this afternoon, should anyone run into any technical difficulties, please contact the Matchbox team via email at support@matchboxvirtual.com or contact them through the chat feature on your device. Nina, we appreciate you and your team being available as technical support for today's event. I would also like to thank and acknowledge the CAP staff that worked behind the scenes to make this event possible. Kathy Semchuk and Lindsay Bowers were the team leads in this regard. We will now begin with the College of Alberta Psychologists annual meeting. I would like now to introduce our Council President, Kathleen Kalaba. Ms. Kalaba began her term on CAP Council in 2018. She has served as Member at Large, Treasurer, President-elect, and President of the Council. Kathleen is a registered psychologist in her own private practice, Pinnacle Psychological, which is located in the Beltline district of Calgary. She is a former Calgary police officer and thereafter has worked in a variety of clinical capacities, including in school and community settings, providing both assessment and counseling services to children, adolescents, adults, and families. Her core areas of practice include ADHD, OCD, Tourette syndrome, substance abuse, PTSD, learning disabilities, and giftedness. She has almost finished her coursework for a PhD in counseling psychology through North Central University and is planning to examine ADHD and rejection-sensitive dysphoria for her upcoming dissertation. She is married to her amazing husband, Peter, and they have 3 wonderful and hilarious sons, Jonah, Nico, and Logan. I would like to call upon Ms. Kalaba to bring the CAP Council meeting to order.
Thank you, Richard. The College of Alberta Psychologists annual meeting is now in order. Welcome to all. To get us started, I would like to introduce Council, public members, and officers of the College. First, our President-elect, Dr. Reagan Gale. Dr. Gale has practiced psychology in Alberta since 2012 and has been a member of CAP Council since 2017. This is her second opportunity to serve as President of Council. In addition to her work with CAP, she is the past founding president of the Psychological Society of Yukon and an observer of the board of the Canadian Academy of Psychologists in Disability Assessment. She is certified in medical legal expertise through the Canadian Society of Medical Evaluators and as a designated capacity assessor in Ontario. Reagan has an active assessments-based private practice seeing clients across Alberta, Ontario, and the 3 territories. Reagan and her husband have 2 sons, and in her spare time, when she's not picking up Lego or folding laundry, she sings in a choir. You will hear more from Dr. Gale later in our meeting, as she is the incoming president for 2023-2024. Our past president, Dr. Greg Shepp. Dr. Shepp served as president in 2021-22 for the College Council and considers it a great privilege to serve on council. He started on council in 2015 and was in the treasurer role for 2019-2020. Prior responsibilities with the college were serving on the registrations, approvals, and substantial equivalency subcommittees, as well as hearing tribunals. In June 2022, Greg retired from Alberta Health Services after working with the Schueller Children's Hospital since 1998, consulting with young people and their caregivers about a variety of medical and mental health issues. He enjoyed supervising psychology residents and doctoral psychology students. Between 2012 and 2021, he was a member, then co-chair of the Alberta Health Services Edmonton Zone Psychology Professional Practice Council. Greg is an assistant clinical professor with the Faculty of Medicine and Dentistry and adjunct academic college with the Department of Education Psychology at the University of Alberta. Outdoor activities with family and friends using hiking boots, bikes, or skis keep him fit and smiling. Thanks to Greg for his 3-year term as president-elect, president, and past president. Now our treasurer and public member, Mr. Garrett Tomlinson. Mr. Tomlinson is a Métis artist and professional who studied political science and Native American studies at the University of Lethbridge, as well as law at both Queen's University and the University of London, with studies focusing on international human rights. As an Indigenous governance consultant, Garrett has spent over 15 years serving Indigenous nations across Canada. Garrett is currently the Senior Director, Self-Government for the Métis Nation of Alberta and lives in the Musqueam, Innuit, Lubicon Lake Nation territory in northern Alberta with his family. Now on to our public members. Miss Elaine Andrews. Miss Andrews holds a Bachelor of Arts degree in Political Science and Economics from the University of Alberta. She worked for Merck Canada Inc. for 23 years in various positions, including health education, patient health management, and as a Western Region sales manager. In 2017, she completed a 3-year term as a public member for the College and Association of Registered Nurses of Alberta. During her tenure, she served on a number of committees, including Appeals, Leadership Review, and Finance, Audit, and Pension. She was appointed to the College of Alberta Psychologists in 2017 and was reappointed in 2020 for a second 3-year term. Elaine enjoys traveling, volunteering, and spending time with friends and family. Miss Michelle Stanners. Ms. Stanners is a strategic advisor and a results-oriented board member with over 25 years of experience. She brings corporate governance, audit, and financial stability for TSX-listed private and not-for-profit entities. She has over 20 years working with Indigenous peoples and has engaged with a number of strategic priorities for the International Women's Forum. Ms. Stanners has held numerous executive leadership roles, including business and policy development. She is senior counsel at the Vitriol Group, where she consults to nonprofits in areas of strategic planning, governance, and fund development. She is a graduate of Harvard University, a passionate pianist, and provides strategic advice to leaders throughout Canada. You can see more information about Michelle on her website at michellestanners.com. Ms. Joanne Taylor. Ms. Taylor is the former Executive Director and Registrar of Appeals for the Alberta Environmental Appeals Board. Prior to that, she held a number of management positions with the Alberta government, including Secretary to the Law Enforcement Review Board and positions in both health and social services. She has extensive volunteer board experience in the nonprofit sector, including the Sexual Assault Center of Edmonton, the Alberta Adolescent Recovery Center, and Alberta Easter Seals. Ms. Taylor has been a member of the Council of Canadian Administrative Tribunals and the Arbitration and Mediation Society of Alberta. She has operated a private consulting firm, providing guidance and advice to both the private and nonprofit sectors. She has also served as a counselor for the Kananaskis Improvement District. Now to our members at large. Dr. Jill Turner. Dr. Turner has worked on various committees with CAP, including the Registration Advisory Committee, Registration Approval Subcommittee, and the Substantial Equivalency Subcommittee. Jill has worked in psychosocial oncology for the past 20 years, providing clinical services to cancer patients and their families. For the past 5 years, she has been in a leadership role with Cancer Care Alberta and responsible for psychosocial and rehabilitation services for the northern half of the province. Although transitioning into private practice, she continues to supervise psychology residents and doctoral students at the Cross Cancer Institute and maintains her faculty appointment with the Faculty of Medicine Department of Oncology. Ms. Cassandra White. Ms. White started her term on council in 2021. She is the Director and Senior Psychologist at Rocky Mountain Psychological Services, a private pediatric psychology clinic in Calgary. Cassandra's career has spanned over 20 years, and she is passionate about children, youth, and their caregivers, as well as neurodiversity. For Cassandra, psychology and learning in the field is both a career and a hobby. She continuously strives to keep up with new research and figure out how to apply it in practice. Cassandra is also passionate about mentoring and supervising those who are new to the profession. She looks forward every day to getting to meet with interns and provisional psychologists, sharing in their enthusiasm and excitement for their learning and journey. In her spare time, Cassandra loves to be out in nature, spending time with friends and family, and traveling. I would like to introduce our newest member to council, elected by acclamation, Ms. Zoraida Dada. Zoraida Dada is South African by birth. She was born into and lived under apartheid for most of her life. She and her family were part of the anti-apartheid movement and the first wave of non-white BIPOC intelligentsia in post-apartheid South Africa. The effort was one of the forces that helped to transition the country to democracy under Nelson Mandela's leadership as president. Zoraida shares the same alma maters as Nelson Mandela, Bishop Desmond Tutu, and Winnie Mandela, the latter with whom she shared university classes. Zoraida immigrated to Canada in 2006. Zoraida is a passionate social justice and psychology advocate and has been active throughout her life and professional career in promoting systemic change, including lobbying for changes to both Canadian and South African legislation. Zoraida is a seasoned psychologist with 20 years of experience. She has been a licensed psychologist in good standing in South Africa since 2003, in Alberta since 2007, and in Ontario since 2021, specializing in counseling psychology and organizational psychology. Zoraida is the founder and owner of, and psychologist at, Invictus Psychology and Consulting, a private practice which she established in 2003. Zoraida is currently completing her PhD in psychology with a focus on post-traumatic growth, resiliency, and leadership. Zoraida is also a chartered HR professional with over 30 years of experience in various roles in 4 countries. Zoraida is an avid volunteer, having served on CAP's RAS committee since 2016. Zoraida was recognized for her volunteer efforts by the PAA as a Contributor of the Year in 2020. Zoraida is also the recipient of the CPA's John C. Service Award in 2021 for her contributions to the CPA's COVID-19 pro bono therapy program. Zoraida is the current chair-elect of the CPA's counseling section and is a member of the CPA's EDI Framework Strategy Working Group. The officers of the college, in addition to Dr. Richard Spellacy, our Registrar and Chief Executive Officer, Dr. Troy Jansen, Deputy Registrar and Chief of Practice and Complaints Director, Dr. Megan Malcoran, Assistant Deputy Registrar and Assistant Complaints Director, Dr. Kevin Wallace, Assistant Deputy Registrar, Professional Conduct, and Ms. Heather Gower, Assistant Deputy Registrar, Registration and Regulatory Navigation. Well done all. We have made it through yet another year of learning and service. As I mentioned in my presidential address almost a year ago, we have both the privilege and responsibility to approach our work with grit, gratitude, and grace. I wholeheartedly cannot think of a better vocation in which to be immersed. Goodness knows how hard each of us worked to get here, whether that be by streamlined or by more circuitous paths. Apparently, all roads do, in fact, lead to psychology. Our clients evolve, as does each of us, individually and collectively. I am ever impressed by the dedication and responsiveness of everyone who works or volunteers with CAP. Heartfelt and vehement thanks to all, particularly with some of the major projects that have been undertaken and completed and continue to be fine-tuned, such as the new member management system and the streamlining of graduate psychology programs in Alberta. CAP continues to harness its breadth and depth in the service of offering psychological services for all Albertans. In addition, with the recent shifts in provincial government, CAP is very well poised to identify, meet, and challenge the opportunities and demands required of such a pivotal domain and leader of health and service. What does each of you envision for this upcoming year? Indeed, infinite options abound. From acquiring further education and training, to conducting research, to networking and fortifying alliances, to engaging in self-reflection and practice, to championing health for all Albertans. This is where it is and where we are proverbially at. In this upcoming year, do continue to invite your colleagues and yourselves to mindfully critique and reflect on how we, as psychologists in Alberta, do things. Bring novel ideas to the table. Suggest refinements for old ones. Share and listen. We certainly never know how much of a catalyst we might be for those we serve and with whom we work. I would like to call upon our treasurer, Mr. Garrett Tomlinson. Garrett, please provide your treasurer's report.
It is my distinct pleasure as treasurer to provide the College of Alberta Psychologists annual financial report for the 2022-23 fiscal year. Audited financial statements as prepared by KPMG LLP on behalf of the College of Alberta Psychologists for the April 1st, 2022 to March 31st, 2023 fiscal year are appended with my report. The college remains in a healthy financial position as indicated by our balance sheet, and we continue to carry appropriate reserve funding levels for an organization of this size. Where recommendations have been made by the auditors or CAP Council, administration has responded effectively and efficiently in implementing any adjustments that were required, and I'm pleased to report that there were only a minor few. Under the stewardship of the Registrar, Dr. Spalisi, the college administration continues to conduct its business to exacting standards and in accordance with the Canadian accounting standards for not-for-profit organizations. This concludes my summary treasurer's report, and it has been my pleasure to serve as your treasurer for the 2022-23 fiscal year. I'll now give the meeting back to Ms. Kalal.
Thank you, Garrett, for your great work as treasurer and for presenting your report. A copy of the 2022-2023 CAP audited financial statements can be found on the CAP website, along with a copy of the annual report. CAP welcomes written questions related to the finances and operations at any time. I would like to now turn the meeting over to our Registrar and Chief Executive Officer, Dr. Richard Spalisi, to provide his registrar's report.
Thank you, Kathleen. Once again, I am also proud to welcome you on behalf of College Council and staff to the 2023 CAP Annual Meeting and Professional Development event. The theme for today's PD event is Virtual Care and Digital Mental Health. We are very pleased to have Dr. Jonathan Perle join us as our keynote speaker, followed by Dr. Stephen Schueller as our plenary speaker. Deputy Registrar and Chief of Practice, Dr. Troy Jansen, will fully introduce each speaker and moderate questions and answers that will follow their respective presentations. Psychologists are an essential health service. This is evidenced by the fact that 1 in 5 Albertans will encounter mental health challenges at some point in time. It is also evidenced by chronically high suicide and substance abuse-related deaths across Alberta and Canada. Psychological distress is also the leading cause of workplace-related disability claims in Canada. Psychologists are effective and are an important component of collaborative team-based healthcare. Despite the above, many Albertans report that they are not easily able to access psychological services. Research indicates that the chief barriers to psychological care are cost and wait times, notwithstanding the recent investments in mental health care programming by all levels of government. The College of Alberta Psychologists believes that universal access to evidence-based psychological services is in the public interest and will serve and reduce pressure on other aspects of our healthcare system. The number of psychologists in Alberta is increasing. This is critical to meeting the growing demand for highly qualified mental health care providers. Psychologists are at the forefront for the prevention, early intervention, and treatment of mental health disorders. Psychologists also play a key role in supporting the treatment of developmental and physical health disorders. They are also increasingly called upon to respond to natural disasters and community crises. As scientists practitioners, psychologists rely upon both evidence-based and emerging research to provide effective and safe services. The primary objective of CAP's 2022-2025 strategic plan is to establish a modern, relevant, globally informed, and forward-thinking regulatory framework that protects the interests of the public. Enhanced entry to practice evaluated supervision, revised standards of practice, and a renewed commitment to continuous professional development are all designed to serve our public protection mandate. CAP's 2022-2023 annual report highlights this commitment to the 3-year strategic plan recently adopted by CAP Council. The need to examine past and current practices to ensure that all members of society have equitable, impartial, and respectful access to mental health care has been clearly demonstrated. This cannot be accomplished without addressing past and current racism and systemic discrimination in our healthcare system. The Canadian Code of Ethics for Psychologists and CAP standards of practice have continued to evolve to include both communities and peoples. Key among these are those that speak specifically to preventing discrimination, the Truth and Reconciliation Commission's calls to action, and the ban on therapies designed to alter sexual identity and/or expression. Nevertheless, CAP recognizes that we are only at the beginning of this journey. Much more needs to be done, and this can only be truly accomplished by engaging with BIPOC and LGBTQIA2S+ members of the profession and community. CAP's Council's recent decision to elevate equity, diversity, and inclusion as a key strategic priority for 2022-2025 and introduce mandatory Indigenous cultural safety and awareness training support our journey to be a more equitable regulatory healthcare body. The Fair Registrations Practice Act that received royal assent on June 28, 2019, reinforced the need to strive for equity and inclusion in all areas of regulatory responsibility. This act is designed to improve the credential and assessment process to help newcomers gain employment in their chosen field while ensuring that CAP's public protection role in evaluating professional qualifications is upheld. When newcomers are ensured timely, fulsome evaluations of their educational qualifications, training, and employment experiences, they can more quickly realize their full occupational potential and serve the interests of Albertans. A national effort is underway by psychology regulators to provide an information clearinghouse for potential newcomers seeking to come to Canada and register as psychologists. Provincially, CAP's effort at streamlining the registration process for Alberta-trained psychologists are ongoing. This is to ensure that all registration processes are timely, objective, transparent, and fair. Importantly, equity in healthcare delivery must come from within, and our profession should both lead and reflect the communities we serve. CAP's efforts in innovation, regulatory excellence, and digital transformation are also ongoing. As a learning organization, all administrative and decision-making processes are subject to continuous evaluation. Natural justice, fairness, and transparency are guiding principles that underline all of our processes. As a regulatory body, we also subscribe to the ethical principles that guide our profession. These include respect for the dignity of persons and peoples, responsible caring, integrity in relationships, and overall responsibility to society at large. I would also like to take a moment and acknowledge our fraternal association, the Psychologists Association of Alberta, for all their good work and accomplishments before and after the pandemic. PAA did not miss a beat in supporting psychologists in the profession during the pandemic and beyond. Dr. Judy Malone and her team truly deserve special recognition. CAP Council and staff also deserve appreciation and recognition for their service over the past year. This is particularly true given both the amount and pace of change during these past 12 months. Their diligence and hard work have been greatly appreciated, and we are all indebted to them. While the challenges for the future are many, CAP and our regulated members have demonstrated they are ready to meet them. The following slide presentation provides an overview of CAP's work this year. For a more detailed analysis of where we have been and the direction we are headed, I would like to invite all regulated members to visit CAP's website, where you will find the recently adopted 2022-2025 strategic plan and our 2022-2023 annual report. In closing, I hope you find today's presentations informative as well as enjoyable. If anyone has questions regarding today's presentation, I invite members to contact the CAP office with your inquiry. I would like now to call upon Ms. Kathleen Kalawa to introduce CAP's 2023-2024 Council President.
Thank you, Richard. We are thankful for your stewardship in leading CAP through another successful year. I would like now to turn over my responsibilities as Council President to Dr. Reagan Gale, our 2023-2024 President. On behalf of CAP Council, we ask Dr. Gale to present her inaugural President's Address.
So I'd like to begin by thanking the outgoing President, Kathleen Kalawa. Kathleen, you exemplified many attributes of a great leader, including honesty, courage, humility, and kindness. Through your leadership, CAP continued to demonstrate a commitment to our core values as a profession and the key priorities outlined in our 22 to 23 strategic plan. Thank you, Madam President. This past year, CAP successfully met several challenges. This included high inflation, an increase in both the number of registrants and professional conduct hearings, as well as several pieces of new government legislation. As highlighted by the CAP Treasurer, Garrett Tomlinson earlier, these challenges were all met within budget. I'd like to thank Garrett for his management expertise and strong financial stewardship. Our other public members, Elaine, Joanne, and Michelle, have ensured that all council activities are viewed from a public protection lens. Their diligence and dedicated service is unmatched. This is not meant as flattery, but as fact. Their work is exemplary, and Albertans are better protected through their service. Thank you all. I also appreciate the dedication of our 22-23 council regulated members, Cassandra, Greg, Jill, Kathleen. All of you have made a difference, and I look forward to continuing to work with you over the coming year. I would be remiss not to thank CAP staff and the many volunteers who work tirelessly behind the scenes. Enhancements to our registration and supervision requirements, our recently introduced continuing competence program, our member management system, standards of practice, and bylaws all occurred seamlessly with your efforts. Your hard work and support mean everything to the college. I am personally and professionally grateful. The work you do supports both our regulated members, but also Albertans more broadly. Thank you. Turning to the future, CAP, along with the Psychologists Association of Alberta, is recognized nationally for their many initiatives directed towards the Truth and Reconciliation Commission's calls to action. These include, as Richard mentioned, mandatory continuing education, a standalone CAP professional practice guideline standard of practice, a dedicated web page, and a resource library hosted by PAA. I'm proud to announce that this year CAP will be joining PAA in launching an Indigenous Wisdom Council to guide both CAP and PAA on future related initiatives. I look forward to continuing to work together in a good way, responding to the TRC calls to action. Relationships and traditional teachings guide this work. So miigwech, shanitan, gunishish, marsi cho, ninaskomtin, Kanaskomtin, and merci. CAP staff and council engaged in several anti-discrimination training offerings this year. Topics addressed included gender and racial diversity, as well as confirmation bias. I look forward to supporting additional acts of reconciliation, as well as other health equity initiatives during this next year. Employing a global regulatory perspective is also critical to CAP's future. CAP is excited about the American Psychological Association's recent commitment to accrediting master's degree programs. CAP also participated in 2023 in international project on competence in psychology at the recent European Congress of Psychology. A strong majority of European Union countries support master's degrees as the minimum entry to practice educational requirement. Adopting a global perspective will allow Alberta to accept more internationally trained psychologists. This is key to ensuring our profession reflects the diversity of the people we serve. I look forward to encouraging efforts to embracing more psychologists with diverse backgrounds. CAP's ongoing efforts to modernize by embracing technology is also a key priority. Virtual meetings, hearings, digital processes, electronic record keeping are all now CAP mainstays. Efforts at enhancing data-driven decision-making are underway. Expanding the use of analytics is an operational priority. Finally, CAP's commitment to principled, value-based regulatory practices is foundational to our future. Transparency, fairness, and objectivity must continue to be reflected in all that we do. It is my belief that this can be accomplished while demonstrating both kindness and compassion. I look forward to our bright future together, and I'm grateful for the honor of serving as Council President again this year. I then call this meeting to a close and I adjourn CAP's 2023 annual meeting. Should anyone have any questions about today's annual meeting, please direct them to the CAP office. We'll take a brief break now and commence promptly at 12 noon to begin CAP's professional development event.